This is still happening in the besieged pockets of rebel-held eastern Ghouta. Airstrikes and shelling have continued on Douma, one of the largest and most populated parts of the enclave. From inside Douma, this footage from a drone shows the shrinking boundary between rebel fighters and advancing forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad. Thousands of people have been wounded and more than 1,500 killed in the latest onslaught.
We hold the United Nations and the Security Council directly responsible for their silence around these crimes and for failing to take action to prevent these crimes. But let us not forget the party that holds direct responsibility are the Syrian regime and the countries that continue to stand by it.
Like much else of rebel-held Syria, relentless bombardment of Ghouta has forced most of it into submission. The buildings over parking garages no longer stand. That's a washing machine hanging out from the shell of an apartment block. A fridge shows what was once a kitchen. Another floor appears to show bathtubs and the caved-in roof. The cameraman who filmed it says this used to be his neighborhood. Craters on top of buildings are the entry points from where rockets and bombs entered these buildings. Until recently, eastern Ghouta was home to almost 400,000 people. The UN is said to be negotiating with rebels for an evacuation deal. Many don't want to leave because they fear conscription, arrests, reprisals and revenge once they leave Ghouta. More than 20,000 have fled to government-controlled areas, but tens of thousands still remain inside.
We lived in horrible conditions. We did not have food, water or wood.
Syria's military has released videos of tanks and soldiers rolling into the streets of towns across eastern Ghouta. In addition to Russian air cover, government forces are backed by Iranian troops, Hezbollah fighters and Shia militias from Iraq and Afghanistan. They say they have almost won. But they're taking over another area decimated by Syria's 7-year war. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera.
The northwestern Syrian city of Afrin is now in control of the Turkish and Free Syrian Army forces after Kurdish YPG forces pulled out almost 2 months to the day since Turkey launched a military operation to take the town and its surrounding province. Turkish-backed Syrian rebel fighters say they entered before dawn on Sunday from 3 fronts, meeting no resistance. Turkey now says it will extend the offences to other Kurdish regions where US forces are stationed alongside the YPG, an ally against so-called ISIL. The Turkish president says, whatever we have done in Jarablus, Al-Bab and Azez before, we will now do the same in Afrin and its settlements. 140,000 people returned to their homes in Jarablus, and now our sisters and brothers from Afrin will return to Afrin. There was no immediate comment from the Kurdish forces. Turkey's armed forces say in a statement troops were combing the streets for mines and improvised explosive devices. Despite an exodus of more than 150,000 people in recent days, thousands of civilians still remain in Afrin. Turkey denies hitting an Afrin hospital in Syria, killing 16 people as huge crowds flee the Kurd enclave. But according to Syrian Kurdish forces, Turkish troops and allied rebels struck the main town. More than 150,000 people, according to the Kurds, have left the town in the last few days, uncertain of their future.
Not a single day, not a single moment in the past 7 years have the fighting parties and those countries with influence over them shown the slightest respect for the sacred principle of the protection of children wherever they are. They have not shown a single moment of respect for that principle.
The two offences, one backed by Russia in Ghouta and the other led by Turkey in Afrin, have shown how Syrian factions and their foreign allies are aggressively reshaping the map. Thousands of people from both enclaves, but mainly from Ghouta, arrive in Adra, a few kilometres northeast of Damascus. Many more thousands are expected who would be guaranteed food and medical help. UNICEF have said it had response plans in place to cope with 50,000 people leaving eastern Ghouta.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was in eastern Ghouta on Sunday, visiting regime forces as they increased their foothold in the previously rebel-held area. Assad told the cheering troops they were fighting in the whole world's battle against terrorists. In a month-long assault, Russian-backed pro-government forces have retaken much of eastern Ghouta, the last major insurgent stronghold near Damascus. Faylaq al-Rayman, the main rebel group in the area, said it was negotiating with the UN about a ceasefire, aid and evacuating injured people. Some 25,000 civilians have fled Ghouta in the last week, according to UN estimates. Most have left through a Syrian army corridor near Hamoye. Troops have splintered Ghouta into 3 besieged zones in one of the bloodiest offensives of the 7-year war.